And we are now broadcasting.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, hold on one second. We're going to check. Just give everyone the opportunity to get in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm connecting RedoutNews.com through our Guerrilla Media Network page, and then I'll figure it out here when I go on mute. But, Shari, go ahead and take it over, and just realize that people will be dropping in right now because we're just beginning the broadcast, okay? But go ahead and take it away.
Okay, very awesome. Thank you. I cannot see the chat right now, but I've got Brett over here. He's going to monitor the chat and let me know about any questions that come up that need to be addressed. This is Shari Dovale. I'm with Redoubt News, and we want to thank Guerrilla Media Network for helping us solve some of these IT problems that Facebook's been giving us. So they've facilitated this live feed, and we're going to have Tim Ravndal, another Redoubt News contributor, who is sitting with Joe Robertson right now. They're going to be on the audio because this was done without any notice to Pete, and he jumped in and did this really quick for us. Let me give you a little bit of background on Joe Robertson. Joe Robertson is a 78-year-old Navy vet. He's disabled. He has a wonderful, wonderful service dog named Sasha, and he's got another dog as well now. And he's been doing a lot for his community over the years. He and his wife, Carrie, do a lot of firefighting and such like that. They, the volunteer firefighting organizations, and they built a pond. Actually, they didn't even really build the pond. All they really did was clean it up and, you know, expand it out and get it ready, not just for the animals and the wildlife, but for the firefighting capabilities for their community. The EPA came in, and first he did have permits, but the EPA came in and said, too bad, the permits, you know, don't mean a thing to us, and they smacked him down, basically. They did a really serious thing, and he went through 2 trials and ended up being sentenced to prison. They said that when he dug this pond, that he contaminated the waters of the Jefferson River, which was 60 miles away from his property. And we all know that that's not, you know, reasonable. And you can get the entire background story on RedoutNews.com, RedoubtNews.com. Just go in there and search Joe Robertson, and you'll get his whole story up there. Now, Joe spent several months in prison, and he was released last winter. And we're going to get him on here on the audio, and we're going to get some updates on him. We have some squealing. Is that me? Is everything good, Pete?
Okay, we're trying to make sure that we're on the front page here. Go ahead.
Okay, just a brief interruption, Shari, just to let you know. Right now, we're also streaming out to Redoubt News on Guerrilla Media Network, so I reposted. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Pete. I really appreciate your help. Facebook has really cut us back, and
I can't get this on video and do this too, unless you sit down.
I can't hear. Oh, you want me to sit down?
All right, Tim, we can hear everything you say.
Okay, I'm trying to get this on video as well from my end, and so just please bear with us while we get the audio to where Joe can hear what you're asking and talking, and then we'll be on the front page here with everything. Everybody will be with us. So I'll make sure that we're here where everybody can hear. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Tim's doing a backup video in case something happens to this one. We never, ever know anymore.
And also, if I can interject, is he joining you right next to you, or is he by telephone?
He's right next to me on my phone.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh, gotcha.
Let me know if you need anything. I'm going to go back on mute.
No problem. Okay, I hope everybody got the background on Joe Robertson. Tim, tell us how Joe looks. Let's start with that. How's he doing?
Well, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I'm seeing a psychiatrist twice a week up at Fort Harrison because of all the stress our precious government's put me through the last several years. And Also, I've got knee surgery coming up, and I have back surgery coming up. And now the Forest Services came after my wife and I again, and they want us to tear down half of our fire barn. We've no longer wildland firefighter contractors. They canceled my wife's contract while I was in prison. They took away my Social Security and my military disability for 20 months, and pretty well bankrupt.
Joe, when are you due to get that back?
I can't hear you, sir. I'm sorry.
When are you due to get your money coming back in? When is that due to happen?
When will you get your money back, Joe?
Oh, I'm back on Social Security and my military disability now, but I was without it for 20 months. And the only way my wife and I survived was you precious people out there putting money in our accounts. And that's what I want to just praise God because of people like you guys out there that helped us. I still got 30 pounds of mail or more that I haven't even answered while I was in prison. You precious people sent letters out to support me and my wife. I wouldn't have made it that 18 months without you guys. I just want everybody to know that. And you guys are still there for us. That's what's great. And we got to let the people know out there that how corrupt some people in our government are. They came after the wife and I again now. We're $130,000 in restitution to reclaim my stock ponds. And they said I deposited when I rebuilt those old dams, over 100-year-old dams in irrigation ditches. All I did was rebuild them, and they're alluding that dredge materials went down this canyon with no flow of water, no tributaries, and went into the Cataract River, 5 miles into the Boulder, and over 200 miles downstream down the Boulder Valley to the Jefferson River and deposited dredge materials in waters of the United States, the Jefferson River. It's just a sea story, as we would say in the Navy. But they convinced the jury on the second trial that that's what I did. I'm a contaminator.
Well, one of the things that we learned in that second trial, too, was there was evidence that would have proved Joe innocent of that. There was a study by a organization that proved beyond a reasonable doubt that there's no way that turbidity could ever reach the waters of the U.S. And unfortunately, we had lawyers playing games with lawyers, and we had judges playing games, and an all-out effort to make sure that everything was taken away from Joe and his wife and their ability to survive and live on their own very own private property. This is the tragedy of this whole story, is we're talking about federal government coming in and taking away the rights of the people, from private property rights on up to personal due process.
And because they came after me, the reason they came after me is because firefighting, we filed complaints because they were putting the people at risk, the public and the firefighters. So this old hard-headed veteran had to write some letters to people down Washington, D.C., and even their supervisors here in Montana. And so they came after us, came after me especially. And now they're coming after the wife because our fire barn is a few feet on our unpatented mining claim. And also they want to take our right-of-way, our roads, into our property, into our ponds, our fire suppression ponds, stock ponds. They want to take those roads away from us. And they want me to move my firefighting equipment and all my mining equipment and everything, and I'm unable to do that because I'm, like I say, I'm in for surgery. Psychiatrist tries twice a week. I've been diagnosed with extreme military-related PTSD, and my old bones are wore out. I'll be 80 in about 6 months.
You know, one of the other things that is a tragedy is Joe owns some other private property in the same area that he was more than willing to trade with the Forest Service to resolve this issue of the building that is just a matter of a few feet off of the patented property. This has been done in Montana and the West as far as trading property to make sure that everybody is whole for generations. And because there is such an animosity towards mining, towards private property in holdings, they have absolutely refused to make that trade, and they've absolutely refused to give any due process. It's a matter of coming in like a Gestapo tactic and come in and take without any opportunity to properly, openly go forward with a due process. And that's the biggest tragedy that I personally see here in Montana. And Joe is not the only case. We have several other mining operations that are trying to survive, and the government is coming in and trying to eliminate that right that's guaranteed to the people under congressional law, as well as, we have some constitutional rights as well that are being stomped on. And again, I think our message today really needs to be is that Joe is still in this fight. We need to make sure that we stand with Joe and make sure that we stand with other folks that are up against this out-of-control government. We've seen too many examples where that's been taking place in the Northwest, especially. I'm not saying it isn't happening back east, because I'm sure it is, but we need to be darn aggressive in making sure that we take this fight to where it needs to be, and we need to stand up and not take it no more.
Let's talk about Joe's attorney for a minute. Now, his original attorney is a man named Mike Donahoe. Joe, tell us about him.
What would you like to let the people know about our illustrious legal team led by Michael Donahoe and what he's doing now with your case?
Well, he hasn't even brought anything before the Ninth Circuit appeal. They've been waiting for 6 months for some kind of a decision on a Hughes case that it's a 4-1-4 vote. I don't know what it was. It had nothing to do with Waters United States. And he refuses to even consider count 2, which was when I widened out the road so we could get our fire trucks in to fight a fire a mile down this canyon. And it's covered under fire suppression law, 261. I found that out in the law library. Why didn't my federal defender bring that up in court, either one of the two trials? He had no expert witnesses at the second trial. He depended on the other side providing the expert witnesses. So, and they alluded that I needed a 404 permit for my pond, which is a lie, because I built 404 ponds when I worked for the Golden Sunlight in Whitehall. And I had my own construction building or company, and we built several 310 permitted ponds all over Jefferson County. And all you do is get a 310 permit from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, which I had for my pond. And they ignored the fact. And also have a water permit from DNRC for 36 gallons a minute. They ignored that too.
Shari?
One of the things that I also have said from the very beginning is this thing started out under a 310 permit violation, which is a Montana law that's designed to protect the streams and the perennial streams of the state of Montana. And I seen what happened here is the local conservation district, which is elected officials at the local level, are charged with enforcing that 310 law. And what they did was, instead of doing their job, which would have been really simple, come on up, get this thing resolved with Joe in the very beginning. Instead of doing that, there was either personalities or some other nefarious reason they dumped that into the lap of the court system and then pushed it on up into the federal level, which is where I guess the Jake Pockets are to prosecute Joe.
Tim and Shari, can I interrupt just real quick, okay? Because I just actually just set the broadcast up. We're now out. Shari, if you could, just very briefly reintroduce what we're doing. Shari Dovale is joining us with RedoutNews.com. For those of you that are joining us on the Liberty One Network, we have American Patriot Joe Robertson on the line, and as well as Tim Ravndal, if I pronounced the name correctly. Shari, just reintroduce very briefly, let everybody know that's just joining us right now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shari Dovale. I'm with Redoubt News. I'm joined by Tim Ravndal, another contributor to Redoubt News, and Joe Robertson, the 79-year-old Navy vet who was imprisoned for digging a pond on his property in Montana. We're getting updates that now that Joe is out of prison, his troubles have not stopped. He is still having issues. He's trying to get appeals done, and his attorney has dropped him. Pacific Legal Foundation did not pick up his case. Mountain Legal has not picked up his case. We're having a lot of issues trying to get him the help that he needs, and he's trying to let everybody know where it stands. He's been asked repeatedly to give updates, and that's what he's here to do, is give you updates on his case and how he, his wife Carrie, are doing, and his health has not been good, but he's telling us all about that as well. Go ahead, Joe. Tell us some more.
Tell us what?
Joe, what more you want to say, Joe?
Okay. Well,
anything else you want to say?
No, it's just that it's so frustrating to try to deal with the feds, because when they have a vendetta, they turn everything around that's happening, just like that 310 permit. I do have a 310 permit from our state, and they ignored it. And I'm just afraid to reach out.
Joe, hold on a second. Now, yes. You went through the process and got permission to fix your pond, correct?
Yes, I did. I built many 310 permitted ponds directly in a stream, directly in a creek. There's one just 2 miles below us, and my federal defender went down and took pictures of it, and it's directly in a stream, and they never presented that to the second trial, but that's why I'm a mile from any stream, no tributary at all. And then after our first trial, our federal defender called my wife and I into Helena for a meeting for the second trial coming up. We returned home early, and we found two EPA agents draining our pond, creating a flow of water down the canyon with no tributary, and used that evidence in the second trial. That's called manufacturing evidence. And my attorney and the judge see nothing wrong with it, and they used that as evidence at the second trial. That fact alone... They did not allow you to present your own evidence, such as the information from Ray Cagle, correct? They wouldn't even listen to Ray Cagle at sentencing. My attorney had a fit just because Ray and his precious wife was there to testify at sentencing, see if they could help me out a little bit. And they said, we improved the property. We didn't damage the property in any way, shape, or form. And Ray Cagle and his wife...
Joe, explain to everybody who Ray Cagle is.
Yeah. Ray Cagle is, he runs his own environmental company, Cagle Environmental, but Ray Cagle worked for the EPA as a supervisor. He worked for the Army Corps of Engineers before creating his own company, and he certainly knows what pollution is. And there's no way that these ponds that we built for fire suppression and for stock ponds, and also use these ponds for therapy for our disabled veterans. We have a Helena Veteran Support Group up at our place. We have a sweat lodge, we have TP, we have anything for these veterans after half a dozen deployments. They need a place where they can come up for some therapy. Well, they destroyed that sanctuary that we've had for years. The federal agents started coming up armed. We had to tell our veterans not to come up there anymore, but a pond with fish in it and with ducks on it is the greatest therapy for some poor old disabled veteran that's just beat up. They need a place where it's safe. They can come up and just meditate and try to recover from everything that they've been through. And
nature is
they've taken that sanctuary away from us, Shari. They've taken that sanctuary away.
Let me talk for just 1 second here, Joe. I want to explain to everybody. Ray Cagle went to see Joe on his own dime. He was not paid to do this by either side. He did not accept money for it because he would not. He was afraid he would have to make a promise to find in favor of one side or the other, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to go in there completely neutral and see, what the situation really was. And he and I spoke at length. I've got an article that includes his entire report on Redoubt News. He said that he could not believe what they had done to Joe, and he could not believe that they would not accept his testimony or his report because it was very valid information. He'd been doing this most of his adult life, and he's been doing it for the Corps of Engineers. He did it in that area. He knows the area very well. Please go and read that full report, and you'll see that he found that Joe did nothing wrong. He actually improved the land, and, that's just something that he should never have been punished for. Keep going, Joe.
Yeah, and he did that. Him and his wife came up there for a couple of days, and they did it pro bono. And why didn't my prosecuting or my federal defender, why didn't he call Ray in to testify at our second trial? Something as simple as that. I didn't know about Ray at the first trial, or I certainly would have contacted him for the first and second trial, but unfortunately I didn't know he was out there. But people need to be aware if our federal government come after you with this vendetta. Thank God there's people like Ray and his wife, Suzanne Cagle, out there that can help us. And they're out helping us.
I want to touch a little bit on some of the restrictions that you are still under. Okay? For a long time, you were not allowed to live with your wife. You had to live in a separate facility on the property. You're not allowed to have any game cameras on your property, even though everybody who lives in the mountains, understands the need for this. Tell us a little bit more about some of this, Joe.
Well, yeah, it's like when I got released from prison, they took our weapons away from us, and we live up in the mountains. We've got no way to protect our livestock, our dogs, or even ourselves because they disarmed the wife as well. And I suffer from PTSD. I have another place 600 feet below the wife's house. I live down there sometimes, and it wasn't requested, but I thought maybe I could live down there and then the wife could keep her weapons, but they wouldn't even allow that. So she's unarmed in the mountains. I'm unarmed up there in the mountains. I can't protect my wife, my animals, or anything. And I didn't do any damage. I didn't dig a pond with my rifles. I used my excavator, as I've been doing for 15 years.
That's the tragedy of this, is this all comes about basically a shovel full of dirt in a hole that doesn't go anywhere. That's the bottom line. A shovel full of dirt in a hole in the ground that doesn't go anywhere.
And now he's going to suffer for the rest of his life for this.
Yeah. And Ray Cagle was back east taking care, trying to help out an 86-year-old widow. Almost the same story as it's 30 years ago. Her husband went to prison, essentially for the same thing that I went to prison for, digging a pond, and now the feds are coming after her after 30 years. So they'll be after my wife 30 years down the road. And Ray Cagle and another attorney is back there helping her. Pro bono, no charges.
But later I want you to update me on her story, because that's going to be something we're going to want to get out as well. But let's focus on your story on this interview.
One of the things I also think is really important right now in this interview, and we'll be doing some more talking with Joe here and get some more details of what's really going on. But one of the things I'm hoping right now, everybody that's out here listening, I want everybody to make an effort to get a message to the government officials that are in charge of this insane infringement on the rights of the people. Secretary Zinke, if you're listening, you better pay attention to this, because this is what we hired you to do, to go to Washington and start protecting the rights of these people. It's a tragedy that we have to even ask for that. But please, everybody out there listening, get that message out. Go through whatever channels you have and whatever you can do to get that message out to our officials from the local level on up, that we cannot stand for this any longer.
Yeah. Just make that land trade with us, and then we can get our veterans back up there so they have a sanctuary and they can regroup after several deployments. It's not fair to these disabled veterans. They need a place, and we can't do it with the feds coming up and continue to harass us. And I just thank all you Facebook people out there for helping us.
Joe, is Michael Donahoe still your attorney?
He is. I tried to fire him, but they wouldn't let me fire him because they said, well, I have an attorney, so I can't do it pro se. So I'm still stuck in that situation. I can't get rid of him. We're going up. We were supposed to go before a judge this Friday on these new charges, and they want me to sign a document that I agree to do all of this within 120 days. And I'm physically unable. I got letters from my doctors that because of my back, I can't lift over 10, 15 pounds. And from my knee surgeon says I will be down after my knee surgery for 6 months. But I can't even get the lawyer that we have now here in Helena to bring that before the judge. I can't get him to put that information out there. So I've got a little lead time to move my fire barn or to rebuild another one so we have a place for our firefighting equipment, because that's what the wife and I do. We protect our area. We're 8 miles from the closest service, and we still have our fire trucks. But we're going to lose our building with all our firefighting equipment in them, and our fire trucks have to set out in the weather. And that isn't right. It just isn't right. Just make that land trade, and it'll be all done. And the property that I want to show them has no road into it. It's surrounded by public lands. And our property that I've had for 40 years, unpatented mining claim, the Mohawk, is surrounded by our property, so there's no public access. And that land trade would be the easiest way out for everyone. And then we could keep our firefighting building and be able to service our neighbors and ourselves from wildland fires.
A common sense approach that seems to be swept under the carpet.
Tim, I'd like to know if they have tried to force Joe to sell his property.
Oh, we can't sell our property. We've got a $130,000 lien against it from the government for restitution. They want to come back in and destroy the ponds, and now they got another $13,000 against us until we destroy our half of our firefighting barn, and also to move equipment that I've got on our unpatented mining claim that I've had for 40 years. I've got to remove all that and put it on our private property. I'm unable to do that. So they've got another $13,000. They're going to hire a contractor to come on my property, destroy my barn, and to move all of my equipment. And because I have no money to hire a contractor, and what's that?
Hey everybody, it's Lindsay here. I'm going to wait for a few people.
Everything good?
Hello.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem. Joe, when was the last time your property was surveyed?
Probably about four years ago. I think, no, more than that. I think it was 2010 when we had the Forest Service did the survey. Wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years. They did a survey, but what we need is to come back up and get some evidence that we can use in court now, just how much of the barn, the fire barn, do they have to destroy? And also where our roads are, they want to shut our roads off, so we got no escape routes. They want to shut down the road, want me to reclaim the road, reseed it when we leave our fire barn down below our home to go to the pond.
Joe,
right away.
Joe, are you saying they are trying to landlock your entire property?
Yes, ma'am, they are. But the lawyer that we have now thinks that we can keep one road open because they have information out there that they can't landlock you. They can't shut down both of your roads, or they can't shut down one road. They've been trying to. They want us to drive several miles up and then go through our neighbor's property. And I says, we can't do that. We've got a road that we've been using for over 20 years, but they want maybe only give us one road. That isn't anything in writing, but it looks like they may give us one road, but we need an escape route in case we have a fire up there. We'll be able to leave our fire barn with our fire truck and go to the pond, and they want to eliminate that. It just doesn't make sense. I can't even get a plan of operation from the Forest Service, they call it a POO plan, to work on the roads. Our roads right now are so rutted that we can hardly get up there with a four-wheel drive. And one road has got mud in it, and you get stuck with a 4x4, a little bike. You couldn't get a four-wheel drive truck, and you certainly couldn't get a fire truck through that area. So we're down to one road now for 600 feet through the unpatented mining claim. Like I said, I own that claim for over 40 years, but they want to take away my rights to safety in and out of our property, and it just doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? It just doesn't compute. And I am so frustrated with that.
Joe, how can the Patriot community help you today?
What's that?
What was that, Shari?
How can the Patriot community help Joe today?
How can we help?
Well, I don't know. Write us some letters. I can personally give to our Senator Daines maybe, or send it out there. But just to get this information out there, I've been told don't poke the bear anymore that I have already. But that's pretty hard to tell. I know a hard-headed veteran, especially with the precious people like you guys out there, that will run with this ball, and they will get things straightened out.
They definitely do not want anybody poking the bear. They want everybody to be very quiet and very compliant and quit messing with the government. Let them do what they're going to do. Well, that's not how we work. You know, if there's
that is not how we work.
That's not on my watch.
That's right. If there's an issue that we need to have brought up, that's what we do. And we're calling on the Patriots to start writing letters to Senator Daines. Who else, Joe? And we'll get those addresses and we'll get those posted for everybody. But who else do you think would benefit from a few letters?
I don't know. Sure, you guys. Yeah, I've got a something coming up here any day now. They want me to sign this document that I agree to do all of this, and it's a summary judgment. I won't even see a jury. I'd love to bring this before a jury, especially now knowing we've got some honest attorneys out there that will help us, and I can get some defense, but they don't even want me to go before a jury. They want to keep this under the loop,
Tim,
so to speak.
Can you get us a copy of that document, Tim?
Sure, and
Yes.
Yeah. And we have information we need to get out to you, that what we've been through out there firefighting too, Shari. I mean, these firefighters and the public shouldn't be subject. They shouldn't be subject to this lack of fighting fires. All they want to do is get out of the office and out there in the field and draw all this money. They don't want to return it. Once they get this firefighting money, they want to keep it in their pocket. So if they can keep these fires going for a couple more weeks, that's what some of the people in the firefighting business, the Forest Service, wants to do. DNRC, they're good firefighters. Our state, let them handle our state firefighting. We don't need to bring the Forest Service in there, especially with the attitude that they got now.
We've been fighting this problem all over the Northwest. Last year, Montana was totally devastated by the fires, and all these states in the West are having the same issues. The federal government, they don't allow people to go in and fight the fires. They want them to reach a certain level, then they can start making money on it. And we have had these issues. We've seen it here in Idaho. We've seen it in Washington. We've seen it all over, and it does need to be stopped. The states do need to be allowed to to manage their own land and manage their own forests. If they were allowed to manage it versus just let it burn, then everybody would be better off. It's not just the fact that it'd be safer and healthier, but the fact is if the state managed the land, they'd be making money for the people, and the taxes would go down. There's a lot of ways of looking at this.
You bet. DNRC, they're the first responders, thank God, and they get out there and they knock these fires down to the best of their ability. But then the Forest Service takes over and it goes the other way. That isn't right. And because the DNRC can handle this firefighting. Let's keep that money in their pocket and not give it away to the Forest Service. That isn't the way things should be.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on with us. I want you to get all those documents to me. Get them to Tim. We'll get it put together. We'll get it posted. Everyone, please share the video. We need everybody to know that Joe Robertson's story is not over. He's still being terrorized by the government and by the Justice Department. They want him to sign some sort of summary judgment on himself, and this just can't happen. We will get that document. We will get it posted. We'll show everybody what they're trying to do to it, and he's going to need a little help with some phone calls and letters. So let's rally around Joe. We've done it before. We need to do it again. This man has been there for us, and we need to be there for him. Tim, would you like to say a few more words?
I would just like to remind everybody one more time that in order to make things change, people have got to get off the couch and get engaged. Right here in Montana, Joe related that he may have a hearing coming up this coming Friday. I try to make sure that I let people know what's going on, but people have to come out and make a little effort to be informed themselves. We cannot wait until it happens and then start getting concerned about it. We got to be proactive. We have to get engaged before stuff like this happens. And it all comes down to, like I said earlier, if the local government officials would have done their job in the very beginning, we wouldn't be having this interview in the first place. So elections do count. And these people that are elected at the local level need to be having their feet held to the fire. And who better to do that than the people in the communities like Boulder, Montana, where Joe has got just a tragedy that's taken place here. We need to be standing up to these people. We need to take them out of office. We need to get people in there that understands the Constitution and the rights of the people. With that, I tell you what, I don't know what else we can do short of the fear of what we're going to do with our Second Amendment.
Yeah, our local sheriff in Boulder, I've got a lawsuit against him now because he conducted an illegal sheriff sale on tearing down our office for our local fire department. And they came after me and sold our property, and it's still in somebody else's name. We do have a lawsuit coming up against Sheriff Doolittle in the Jefferson County.
Again, it's just everybody needs to get engaged, and we'll try and do our best to make sure people are informed in advance of some of these things that are happening. But write those letters. Get those letters out to Daines and Secretary Zinke, and let them know that this is a tragedy and that this has got to end. I think that's our message for today.
Thank you, precious people.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Tim. We will be posting these addresses. We will be posting information on the hearings as we get that information. Anybody that can attend, I'm sure Joe would really appreciate it. If you cannot, if you could help with phone calls and letters, that would help him tremendously. Please stay
I'm not
tuned.
sure, Jerry, I'm not sure we're going to have a hearing this Friday. It's up to the attorney that we've got. And all he wants me to do is to sign this agreement that I will do this, but I can't sign that without due process.
Right on.
So I don't know what's going to happen this Friday. I don't know. We'll keep you informed.
Absolutely. As we learn this information, we will share it with everybody. Stay tuned to Redoubt News, because that's where we're going to share it at. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Pete and Guerrilla Media Network. We appreciate your jumping in and solving our IT problems. Now, we get more and more of those from Facebook, and, we will figure it out. It's just until then, we've got Chantilly picking up the slack for us. Thank you again.
That's right. And just a reminder to everybody, because of internet censorship, the censorship of especially conservative voices and important topics like this, the way we get the word out and circumvent those automated tools of censorship is we have to manually share this information. When you click that button, they can't break your finger. That's our one last line of defense. Click that button, share it with as many people as possible to bring awareness to an American patriot, Joe Robertson.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Shari, and we'll keep everybody updated.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank God for you people.
God bless America.
God bless America. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone. We'll talk soon.
All right, stand by.